up the ZV1. There we go. Now we're back. Can everybody hear me in the chat right now? I just went and put OBS through an update, and I think that's why it disconnected everything. Can somebody give me a heads up in the chat if you guys can hear me all right? Let me pop that out as a matter of fact. So I have this in front of me. There we go. Teddy King, good evening. Brady G, Sabrina Marshall, Robbie Lynn, Wazim Sedvald, good evening. Elite Chief Stark, 5 out of 5. All right, perfect. You all can hear me. Excellent. So yeah, sorry about that. I just went ahead and updated my OBS. It's been shouting at me the last few live streams we've done to get an update going. So I figured, you know what, I got a couple minutes, let me go ahead and do that. And then as I booted it up, not only did it take forever to connect to my YouTube, but then it also disconnected all of my ports. So I had to build everything back in. And let me know if it's too loud as well, because it looks like my mic is in the red zone. That's why I keep pushing it further and further away from me. So if it's too loud, also let me know. And thanks for tuning in, some of our folks down in the Caribbean from across the rest of the United States. It's good to see everybody tonight. So I'll let you know right out of the gate, first and foremost, we are going to talk about that disturbance that was highlighted in the subtropical Atlantic. It's not there now. It's been wrapped up inside this mid-latitude cyclone that's almost stationary over Bermuda. It's just to the immediate southeast of Bermuda. There's your center. Bermuda is up towards the northwest there where the circle is. And initially, and I have another satellite loop just after this to show you the progression of it and when it tried to take on subtropical characteristics. Now, the main reason I want us to talk about it and why I do think this could be a very small signal for the upcoming hurricane season is, you know, obviously not because, oh, early activity means an active season or this could possibly be the start of the hurricane season. That's not what we're talking about here. I love to tease ahead to that and whatnot, but that's definitely not what I'm trying to say here. What I'm saying is if we don't have any kind of cooling take place in our subtropical Atlantic, or at the very least our MDR doesn't start to warm up in the eastern central tropical Atlantic, then that could possibly be a repetition that we see through the hurricane season. Subtropical systems forming through the subtropics anywhere in this general area and either dipping up towards the north or possibly making a run for the east coast of the United States, which some of our climate models do somewhat indicate that. They do kind of show some subtropical action out there, curving back up through the central Atlantic, possibly putting Bermuda in harm's way, possibly being an issue for the mid-Atlantic coast, the northeast coastline of the United States, or the east coast Atlantic Canada, just like we saw with Hurricane Lee back in 2023. I love how that rhymes. It sounds so funny. Good evening to everybody. Wazim, yes, we are going to talk about that. It's another reason why I pushed it to today. I was going to stream yesterday, but once again, Wednesday, today's the 19th, we got our IRI update for the ENSO, so we will kind of sneak that in here to the discussion as well. But that's the main reason I wanted to talk about this, is not only is it creating inclement weather for Bermuda right now, on and off showers and storms, very gusty winds out of the north, but I also wanted to talk why it is I do think if we see warming continue for the subtropical Atlantic, as well as all the anomalous warmth that's still built in near the Yucatan, near Central America, and the western Gulf, the Bay of Campeche, these two areas could possibly be where we get a lot of sloppy action. I'm not saying that we're going to have heavy hitter storms, major hurricanes coming out of these general areas on a recurring basis, but we could possibly get a bit more of an active season because we get sloppy named storms that flare up into low mid-grade tropical storms and then curve up and out, don't really do very much for us besides inflate the numbers. That's what we saw a lot of in 2020. That's what we've seen in other hurricane seasons. And that could possibly be a song and dance that we get this year, where we get an additional maybe 2 to 4 named storms in the subtropics. We get some sloppy action like Alberto, Chris from last year in the Bay of Campeche, the western Gulf, that become rain and flood makers for potentially Texas, Louisiana, just things like that. Little signals. And so before we get too deep into the weeds here, that's kind of why I wanted to do this discussion. This is the loop of the satellite, and now our feature is right there. It's just a naked swirl. It was previously attached to fronts. This was a textbook setup to get some sloppy action out there, regardless of if we're in the hurricane season or not. If we were to go back in time, you'd see that there was a powerful mid-latitude cyclone that worked its way up towards Spain, Eastern, or I should say Western Europe, and you can see it right there. The tail end of the front left some energy behind over the subtropics, over the area that's generally anomalously warm for this time of year. And so this was something, and if you guys tuned in for my previous discussion, we had mentioned that there was a little something that might try to flare up at the very tail end of that front, and National Hurricane Center decided they were going to give it the yellow lemon just for the heck of it because it was an area of curiosity. Now it's gone. It's wrapped up in this very powerful mid-latitude / subtropical cyclone now. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's going to turn into a subtropical storm, but we have this area of low pressure, a very deep area of low pressure right there at the very tail end of the satellite loop that has wandered into the subtropical Atlantic. It is due east of the Florida coastline. So very interesting to see. That's a very interesting setup. It is still jet supported. You can tell it's jet supported. We have a lot of open cell cumulus right in through here, ripping into the surge region of this low pressure. I won't even call it, it is technically still a comma cloud, but this is definitely a very deep, occluded, if not almost fully cut off comma cloud. It looks like it's been cut off by now. You can see the jet was ripping through this segment of the storm right over top Bermuda, and now as it's broken away from the jet, it's fully gone what's called barotropic. It's just kind of hanging out there by itself. Could possibly be out there for a while too, since it's really not involved in any of the steering patterns out there. But yeah, other than that, the tropics are still very quiet. You can see the Caribbean's been catching a break. There's really nothing out there right now. Everybody's getting really pleasant weather. The Midwest up near Illinois, Michigan, Indiana, they're getting some severe weather once again because it's just the time of the year. But everyone else, even us down here in Central Florida, it's been gorgeous the last couple of days. I felt really bad that, I really haven't put out a whole lot of News 6 content in terms of the weather department, but it's like, hooray, spring break, we're so back. Everything's great out there in the world. And it looks like we're going to have some pretty solid weather going forward as well. I've been seeing talk and discussions. I know my great friend Jonathan Kagas put out a video, I think, yesterday that pinpointed that we're going to have some really nice winter / spring temperatures, like an amalgamation of the two crammed together for Central Florida. We're going to start off a little on the cooler side in the morning, but then the afternoon is going to be gorgeous. Afternoon will be gorgeous. So here is the outlook that was brought to us on 12:20 this past Monday from National Hurricane Center. And you can see central subtropical Atlantic right out of the gate, a non-tropical area of low pressure. I can't emphasize that enough. There were even some more trusted sources out there clickbaiting with this stuff, and it was kind of a bummer to see. Both Jonathan and I both were kind of upset about that. Because yes, it is a little on the rare side. I don't like to use that term, but it is a little on the rare side to get a tropical weather outlook in the month of March. We're not even into spring just yet. We have, I think, one more day until spring, the calendar start of spring anyways, and we already had our first tropical weather outlook from the hurricane season. If you look, it was northeast of the Leeward Islands and producing gale force winds, which is something we discussed on broadcast. I broke down a graphic identifying what it takes to become a bona fide tropical cyclone. And it said here, additional development of this low is not expected as it moves northward to northwestward into an environment of strong upper-level winds and dry air, i.e. that big old system we just highlighted on the satellite. So, it was definitely something fun for us to check out, a little bit of eye candy out there to remind us that we are less than 3 months away from the hurricane season. In fact, I would say, we're approaching like 70 days and counting? Because we only have April, May, and March is just about already done. It's already March 19th, 2025, so we're already counting down big time. And then on top of that, we have our latest ENSO guidance, as was already alluded to in the chat. This is the CPC ensemble probability that they're thinking in terms of our La Nina, El Nino neutral phases for the rest of the year. And you can see we have seen a nudging upwards of our La Nina characteristics. Obviously, neutral is still expected to dominate, but La Nina is now back on the table. And then you can see here also we have our latest IRI probabilistic forecast, and it's actually squeaking us back into La Nina as we get towards the very tail end of the hurricane season. This is September, October, November, and then October, November, December. So we could possibly be making the transition right around the same time that we did last year from neutral to La Nina. Could that potentially have implications on the hurricane season? Very much so. We saw it last hurricane season. We had a lot of dead spots, likely because of all the warmth in the Atlantic, which no one has really investigated that yet. No one has really mentioned that, and I'm kind of surprised that a lot of the big brains, and perhaps they will start to discuss it a little more at the Tropical Weather Conference or the National Hurricane Conference next month. Super stoked to bring you guys the coverage of that. But I'm really beginning to wonder if what shot us in the foot last hurricane season was how much hot air and hot water we had just everywhere. The entirety of the Atlantic, from the tropics, the Caribbean, the Gulf, the subtropics, even up into the mid-latitudes, the southern periphery of the mid-latitudes, were extremely hot. And I think that's why we had so many instances of anticyclonic wave breaking, to where the anticyclones would crash on their eastern side, and we'd get just an abundance of dry air directly into the MDR. And then on top of that, we had our northward recessed ITCZ, which was putting our waves right up into all that dry air. So it was like a combination of the two. And now the fact that we've had a lot of stuff cool off out there, it just makes you wonder, are we going to see something like that during the hurricane season? Is that going to influence the hurricane season at all? And let me go ahead and show you. Oh, yeah. And then also, these are our model predictions for the ENSO. Truthfully, at this point, I'm not going to lie to you all. I'm gonna follow Phil Klotzbach on this one. I'm not even going to try to draw any theories on ENSO. We have our guidance from NOAA, Climate Prediction Center. We have our model-based probabilistic charts from the IRI and other, official sources. But looking at what our models are thinking, and wait until you see the latest from the CFS, it's not going to get any better. But this doesn't tell me anything. This is essentially saying, we could go El Nino, but we could go La Nina. It's anybody's best guess, and I don't like that, so I'm not even going to try to put myself into hot water, no pun intended, and try to guess. We are starting to see us go back towards La Nina now, though. We're getting a easterly trade wind surge out there over the equatorial Pacific, and you can see we have quickly rebounded back into a cool neutral, and we'll continue to go back into what I think will be weak La Nina characteristics as we go through the rest of the month. You can kind of see it right in through here. We're starting to cool out there where it matters most, and we still have that El Nino, what is the name of it? I just saw it the other deal, not Costas, the El Nino, maybe that's what it is? There's a funky term that characterizes all this anomalous warmth right off the South and Central American coast. I forget the name of it. I was just doing some homework on that a few days ago, and I really can't put my finger on it. But that's what hybrid setup we have right now. And if you look, much of the Atlantic is still above average, minus where it technically matters the most. The Canary Current is not nearly as prevalent, and the MDR, the eastern and central main development regions of the Atlantic, are actually anomalously cooler. Now, there it is. Thank you. El Nino Costero. Thank you so much. I knew it was cost something, but I couldn't remember exactly what it was because, truthfully, that was the first time I had heard about it, and so I decided I'm going to spin myself up on it and figure out what it is. So now taking a closer look at the anomalies, and that's another thing I also want to mention too, is we have anomaly charts that a lot of us continue to look at. So these cooler anomalies here don't necessarily mean that the water's cold. Down here near the actual tropics coming off the Horn of Africa, that doesn't necessarily mean that this is cold. It does not mean that. It just means that we're a little bit closer to average, if not more below average right now for this time of year. That's another thing too, is we have to make sure that we're paying close attention to the actual water temperatures when forecasting certain things about the hurricane season. For example, I'll go to the tropical Atlantic, and we'll take a look at the temperatures. So off the coast of Africa, you can see that right off the immediate shore, the shelf waters are very cold. They are cold, and that's where the blue anomalies come from. But then we very quickly get right back into warm territory as expected as we get closer to the Lesser Antilles and the Greater Antilles. So it's not like we're completely out to lunch and there's just a huge cold dome out there. That's not the case at all. It's just finally not extremely above average like we're used to seeing and like we've been used to talking about the last couple of years. And I think that's also part of the reason why so many people are already saying it's going to be an average season, nobody worry about anything, it's all good. Because since 2022 with some of our big storms then, and then 2023 breaking all the El Nino rules in the book, and then 2024 being so warm and impactful, I think we have mentally skewed the perspective about a hurricane season. You can still have average water temps. Early hurricane seasons that were very prolific, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, back in the 60s, back into the early 2000s, 2004, 2005, we had average water out there pretty much across the board, and you saw what happened out there. So just because our water temperatures are not explosively supercharged doesn't really make a big difference, at least in my book. I don't think so. We're just going to have to watch exactly where the greatest warmth consolidates, and then we can draw our conclusions from there. Now, this is the latest, oh good lord, I can't stand looking at this chart. This is the latest CFS forecast for our 3.4 ENSO region. Can anybody in the chat right now tell me what they would discern from that? Anybody at all? Can anyone really see what the general consensus is with this model ensemble? Because this gives me a headache. Once again, this is what I think the epitome of what everybody out there who doesn't study the weather thinks about meteorologists. We get paid to be wrong all the time. And in this case, that's exactly what this model is showing us. Oh, after about the, month of April, getting into May, we could surge right into a strong El Nino. But then at the same time, if I'm feeling like it, we could possibly go all the way down into a strong La Nina too. That is a big old margin of error. And if you look at the seasonal outlook, it gets no better. From May, June, July, and forward, you either skyrocket into an El Nino, or we skyrocket, or plummet, I should say, down into a La Nina. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, let me stop being dramatic and extra, because you can see our average percentile, the ensemble mean, is right along that neutral line. So, of course, I can make comments and joke around with you all about the extremes here in some of our ensemble members, but the general average does keep us hugging that 0-degree line. Does that necessarily mean that that's what the model is perfectly thinking? No. It just means that the average percentile, when you take everything into equation, it's, right in the middle ground. And at the end of the day, that doesn't necessarily help us, because we still have these extreme ensemble members on wide left or wide right of the chart. It just says the mean shows right in the middle. That could be anybody's best guess. It could bias to the upper portion of the chart. It could bias towards the bottom portion with such a mean spread here. I don't like seeing that. That's very rough in my opinion. Sorry, I don't know why I have this pulled up still. This was me looking back at our next severe weather event over the United States. So, ENSO is probably going to become a bit more easy to forecast as we get past April. I really do think when we get to this point in April, and especially approaching May, I know that's already too close for comfort for the hurricane season, but I think that's when we're going to get out of this winter into spring transitional point, to where even Dr. Phil Klotzbach has mentioned to me in discussions that we've had where it's it's extremely difficult. There's almost no skill in terms of the predictability of ENSO during this time of year, especially since we're kind of coming out of the portion to where it peaks. I believe that there is something on here that mentions, here you go, tend to reach their maximum strength during October to February. So this is right about now that we're in March, and then into April, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. So after that point, we're going to start to get a better handle on it, and I think our models are also going to calm down. What's very bizarre about this point in time, though, as we transition to our satellite view of that big old system out there in the western Atlantic, what's very difficult when you think about it, and I personally can't speak on experience because a lot of my time as a weather forecaster was spent forecasting for military assets, for military bases, for large land regions. I didn't spend a heck of a lot of time studying these big teleconnections. I didn't spend a whole lot of a time on studying tropical meteorology. The greatest, I would say the depth of my tropical meteorology knowledge during my time in Air Force weather, stopped at just simply highlighting and analyzing streamlines, areas of low pressure, high pressure, troughs, ridges in the southern hemisphere. So I didn't really dabble in all this. So I don't really have a huge track record to go off of when discussing our climate models being so sporadic in their ENSO predictions. So all I can go off of is the fact that the year prior, 2023, when we got our humble beginnings here on the channel, we were pretty concise on building into a super El Nino. Then last year, we all know we were dominant in terms of forecasting that strong, if not moderate, La Nina, to the point where everybody was, expecting by April, May, we were going to be in a strong La Nina. So, that busted. That didn't pan out for us. We were not into a La Nina, and even a weak La Nina at that, until about October, when Milton started to form up and the tropics went almost chaotic on us, and we unleashed the dragon, or unleashed the kraken out there. So I don't know, maybe somebody out there can testify to whether or not our climate models typically do this, but I remember when we had our tropical discussions last season leading up to 2024's hurricane season, they didn't do this. They were not like this. They were pretty fanned in. Some kept us in cool neutral, others brought us into La Nina. In this case, now we're going up here, or it could possibly be down here, and I don't like those inconsistencies. I don't like those inconsistencies at all. So that's going to make things very difficult for predicting the hurricane season, at least in terms of using that as a predictor. If the waters stay cool and we do surge into a moderate El Nino or greater, then that could have implications on the hurricane season as well, because we have cooler waters across the Atlantic. It was proven and myth-busted by CSU that the reason 2023 was so aggressive with 21 named storms, or 21 storms total, was because we had a supercharged Atlantic and a super El Nino, so we just had lift everywhere. There was really no pressure pattern to steer these storms, which is why we had everything going up and out in a way. Coriolis was pretty much dominating 2023. As soon as these things started spinning and faster, they just curved up and out. If we have what the Euro and what the CANSIPS and what the NMME are starting to slowly come around to, a more prevalent pressure pattern over the Atlantic, positive NAO, more firmly grounded subtropical Atlantic high, etc., then we could see more of these systems get going and push further west. Doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have impactful hurricanes here in the United States, but I'm already watching very closely for our Lesser and Greater Antilles friends. And I'm going to be making a trip down to Puerto Rico at some point, probably later into the summer, so taking a bit of a risk there. But you know what? It'll be a good time to go visit family. So yeah, that's all we've got for tonight. I just wanted to do a very quick update because I think that what this little feature out there in the Atlantic, it was not necessarily, I just read an article too out there that had mentioned that this is a reminder that sometimes seasons can start early, and it's like, this isn't a start to the season. This is just a one-off system. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So the main reason I wanted to discuss this is I do think this could be a small signal of what's to come this hurricane season if our water temperatures don't reorchestrate or reconfigure themselves. If our warmth stays in the subtropics, we could see our vertical velocities focused out there, and as a result we get more of these really sloppy spins that either take a name, or National Hurricane Center, like a few of our rogue spins last hurricane season, they don't name it and they miss it because it's not doing anything. So it could either be a dud of a season, which I don't think so. I really don't think this is going to be a dud or an average season, at least in my opinion. I can definitely see us getting between 14 to 18 named storms. It could be even higher than that if they start to name things like they've done in the past. So we shall see. But that's the key takeaway for everybody out there watching, whoever discovers this live stream down the road. Let's go ahead and hit that like button so we can hopefully start to get people to discover the channel again. It's kind of disappointing, and I know it's self-inflicted. I know it's my fault. I know it. Because I don't put out bad content, and I would imagine, or I would at least hope, that everybody in the chat here can testify to that. We don't put out bad content here when I can get on camera. And I know for a fact it's the YouTube algorithm punishing me for not being as active on here as I once was. So it's been very discouraging. Every time I put out a new piece of content, I lose subscribers. I don't gain any. I'm not even joking with you all. I'll open up the analytics to check comments, and on the home screen, it immediately says I lost 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 subscribers as I've uploaded something new, it's like, dang, okay, YouTube, you don't have to be that vicious. I'd imagine that if I upload something, people are not just unsubscribing, because that's the niche on this channel. So I'm going to get back into it. I really am. I'm trying to be a lot more repetitious in what I put out on this channel. I thought this was an excellent idea to go ahead and give you all an extra bonus tropical update for the month because we had something out there real time. And I do think it's a small signal, a subtle sliver of what we could possibly see this hurricane season if we keep the warmth, the greatest warmth, bottled up in the central Atlantic. Just sloppy systems out there. And Braden's Weather Channel, I did see your comment. It's okay. It's all good. Trust me, it's all good. I haven't really been putting out too much on here anyways, so that's totally fair. You're probably going to get your weather information from elsewhere. But I will be beeped to heck for lack of HE double hockey sticks to avoid saying that. I'll be danged to HE double hockey sticks if I do not build momentum again for this hurricane season. I will be working hard over the next couple of months to rebuild this channel, get back to you all as a community, and keep us alive and that heart beating as we approach another hurricane season. Because we got ourselves off during the 2023 hurricane season. And I'm not one of the weenies out there who are going to hype up all the severe weather, hype up the historic snowfall that happens almost every day now at this point. I'm getting tired of seeing that too. Every other day, historic severe weather outbreak. Generational snowfall. It's like, dang, I didn't realize we were missing all this historical stuff happening on a regular basis. I hope you all can detect the sarcasm there. Brady G111, you do good. There's so many clickbait channels. David is the best weather channel. I do appreciate that. I really do. Everybody out there, I do sincerely appreciate it. Maybe try to clip a lot of shorts out of longer videos. That's actually a really good idea. I've been told that before, CG Macklemore. I just haven't done it yet because truthfully I've been so wrapped up in everything else. I've been trying to build a presence for myself on TikTok so this way when it does come time for the tropics, we can start dual hatting live streams. I can be talking to everybody. We can really build a presence. That's truthfully what I want. I really want, now that I'm actually in full-time meteorology with the local station here, I really do want to build my name as a meteorologist. That is the number one goal. I want to, and that comes with a level of respect for you all and a level of respect for myself. So if you're discovering the channel or you're telling people through word of mouth, I really need you to understand that now more than ever, because I know back in the day, I was just getting started, I would get a little hypey. I know I recognize that I learned from it. I've gained some subscribers from learning that and learning from my earlier mistakes. So now, more than I ever have before, I just want to build our community and my name as a reputable weather source, a meteorologist, in every sense of that. And I want to respect the science, I want to respect the community, I want to respect you all and your intelligence and bring you the content that you want now more than ever before. And that's why even though I've been absent, that doesn't mean I've stopped studying. That does not mean that I've stopped crunching the data, crunching ways to get better, even improving on the way that I speak to you all. I don't want to fall short in any category. So Lord willing, if it's in the cards for us, we can continue to build and build and build and really double down on all of our growth as a community. Because I would argue, and I know we're totally on a different subject. I know we're on a way different subject. I do apologize. I'll come off the soapbox in a second. But if I can be openly honest with you all, not only do I love the science of meteorology, but through the last 2 years now, approaching our third hurricane season, as Mick and Marley mentioned in our last stream, approaching our third hurricane season together, I think the most fun part of this entire process has been you all. Obviously we got the trolls and we got the people out there who want to come in and cause chaos. Obviously we can't avoid them, but I will openly say, and I sincerely mean this, that my favorite part, the passion and the love for weather has always been there since I was small. So in terms of what we're doing here in our community, my favorite and most fun part is getting on here and talking to everybody. Meeting everyone from different parts of the United States, from down in the Caribbean, from the Bahamas, from Mexico, Central America, even having a few of you guys tuning in from Europe. I think that's the most fun part of this, is coming in and having just that camaraderie and that community coming together. And I know there's a lot of other great sources out there, and I won't discredit them, but sometimes I truly wonder if when they say, oh yeah, the community and all that, if they really mean it. because I definitely mean it. Even right now, when we have only 75 people in here, I'm still having a great time talking to those of you who are kind enough to tune in. We could have 7,500 people in here, we can have 75, we can have 5 people in here, and I'll still talk weather and have fun with you guys. So that's not going to change, and that's why I really want to grow now that I'm in the best position that I've ever been in my entire life to really build some stuff up. And I do remember that. I see you guys going back and forth in the chat. David Lay, YouTube, or YT, good to see you again as well. Elite Chief Stark, I do remember that. It was towards the back end of the hurricane season. We had a lot of stuff popping in the tropics, and yet we were already talking snowfall. Peter Moss, thank you so much for the $2 donation, by the way. I really do appreciate it. That's Florida snow was once in a lifetime event. It probably is. It probably is. A305 Aaron 1234, do you think we will have an above season for hurricane season? No, you said that right. It would be above average, and I can absolutely see it being an above average. I truthfully think it would take a lot for a hurricane season to go average, if not even below average. We would need a lot of things to cataclysmically go wrong for us to not have an above average season. That's why, like I had said a couple minutes ago, I can full-heartedly see us at the minimum achieving 14 to 18 named storms this upcoming hurricane season. Taking what we learned last season, which I'm also very excited to sit down and hear that at the conference in April. They are going to discuss that. What went wrong, what went right, lessons learned, key takeaways from the 2024 hurricane season. So there's still a lot more to come, and I'm definitely going to bring it out here for you all. Thank you for what you do. I very much appreciate it. I'm in Louisiana, and as for experience, I really don't trust hurricane season because anything can happen. I was in Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Ike. Both of those historic storms in every sense of the word, and this is the 20th anniversary from Katrina. And Ike was no joke as well. I remember looking at the historical data for Hurricane Ike. So, and I agree. I think PM, that kind of hits it on the money, a wild card season. And I think not only because of some of our data being so sporadic, but I think because we do not have the psychological aspect that we did going into 2024. 2024, everybody and their mother. You could have given anybody out there, any of you all, any random person off the road, a chart with predictions and forecasts, and it would have said, this is going to be a big season. This is going to make 2005, 2020 look like a joke. And it went upside down. It was still a very eventful hurricane season, and I think people discredit the fact that it was still a very impactful, a very destructive, and a very record-setting hurricane season just because of the fact that we had so much excitement build up preseason. And I think the reason that this is going to be a wild card season is because we have no expectations. We're going in on a blind date with this hurricane season. Now, that sounds weird. Last hurricane season, we were expecting to be dating a Kim Kardashian, a Beyonce, etc., to give you a weird example. This hurricane season, we're literally going in with a blindfold. We're kind of like, it could be this, it could be that. We don't know, and that's cool. We'll see what happens. So, Johnny Blaze, I recognize the YouTube channel. I mean, the YouTube name. I didn't really go anywhere. I've just been so busy and so burnt because 80% of my job, I would say, okay, 70% of my job with News 6 is social media, digital, writing stories, posting, sharing, etc. for News 6. And then on top of that, my schedule has been chaotic on the broadcast side of it when I have to go on television. So just trying to balance all that out. My schedule just recently changed again, but I am not going to stop that or stop myself from putting out content with you all. And that's why I'm slowly but surely, at least on a weekly basis, trying to put something out. TrainSpotter Florida, I kind of have that feeling too, to tell you the truth. I really do. Like an Andrew, Katrina, Rita type setup for us. I'm not talking about you, Louisiana, so please don't take that out of context. I'm not talking Louisiana or Texas with Rita, Katrina, etc. But if you all remember earlier in their life cycles, Andrew, we all know, but Katrina and both Rita, they hit South Florida on the East Coast. And I could definitely see something like that happening during the month of September into early October, based on what our climate models are predicting could look like out there, both in the low-level and upper-level pressure configuration. anomalous high pressure and ridging up over the northeast United States, and then a kind of moderated Atlantic high pressure to where it'll allow something to try to lift up, but then it'll be reinforced up to the north from high pressure over Atlantic Canada, the northeast, and slide back east. Pending, whether or not we're in a negative PNA or there's a trough, cold front progressing through, we could very easily see something hook up and then go back to the west. I can definitely see that being a thing this season. And then, Lord willing, it's not a South Florida event, or it doesn't eventually find another weakness and rebound back into the Carolinas, because I think both of those scenarios are on the table this season. I really do. I really do. So, DNL, thank you very much. I do appreciate that. And I did not miss your comment, Yadira. All my respect for you, David, from here, West Puerto Rico. Definitely the best, and thanks for your hard work. God will keep blessing you. Lord willing, you did. Yeah, that's Willow. I always leave her out of the live streams now because she'll jump up on my lap and she'll start bopping this and moving my hand. So unfortunately, I leave her out there and she'll start making noise. So I think that's kind of her saying we got to come off the live stream now. So thank you all so much for watching. We're going to go ahead and wrap up because I don't want to extend this out too much longer. I also don't want to do extremely lengthy live streams because I know that also hurts the algorithm. Please, if you could be so kind, click that like button. I do need your all's help because even though I'm putting out content, YouTube will not favor it if you guys also don't give me a little nudge. We're going to use that. If you give it a little nudge, we can get this channel back out into the spotlight a little bit. Don't know what just happened. We can get this channel back up and moving at full capacity, especially when it comes time for hurricane conference stuff. Because I went out and bought a little portable laptop screen. I'm gonna download some stuff for my laptop. New 6 is gonna loan me a ton of equipment to bring out there to New Orleans, and I cannot wait. That's when you're going to be seeing content left and right. I don't care how tired I am. I'm going to be pushing content out almost on a daily basis at that point with information on the hurricane conference, any interviews that I may be doing. I can already feel my eyes burning because I know I'm going to be tired. I'm going to need a very fine balance between caffeine and other things to kind of calm down and not stress out. But you know what? And Peter Moss, you're absolutely right. I don't own a cat. My cat owns you. That is for dang certain. So yes, please nudge the like button. If you did manage to discover this live stream, please click subscribe. I'm working feverishly to bring you the best information that there is available out there. I'm working day to day to improve myself as a meteorologist so I can better communicate the prevalent information to you all. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop them in the comments section down below upon the conclusion of this live stream, and we will go ahead and get back to you at my earliest convenience. I can make a promise about that. And we'll see you again soon. If anything, depending on what shakes out at the very tail end of March, early April in terms of severe weather, we'll probably do a couple more interview. I read your comment, Brady. Not interviews, but more severe weather coverage. And that's that. Thank you all very, very much for taking a little bit of time out of your Wednesday evening. I hope that the first half of the week has been amazing for you. TrainSpotter Florida, I subbed a while ago actually, but I actually see you as the best meteorologist here. I sincerely appreciate that. And if I have not earned that accolade with everyone who's in this community, then I'm going to be continuing to work very hard and diligently to earn that. And actually, yeah, PM, I definitely agree with that too. I also have a sneaky suspicion that we're going to have something out of the Gulf or out of the Western Caribbean, a sloppy system, not a bad one, but I really do think we're going to get something like an Alex or a Bonnie from 2004, something like that, something very disorganized that's going to come in with like 40, 50 mile an hour winds, big rainmaker for Florida or the Southeast. I can kind of see something like that happening too. We'll have to see, because obviously that's something we can definitely pinpoint from a couple weeks out. We can check the pattern, check the MJO, see if we're going to get something in the form of a gyre between late May and the first half of June like we saw with Alberto. So I can definitely see that as well. I would not be surprised myself. I do fully agree with you on that. So we shall see, because we've definitely been bombarded by low pressure after low pressure after low pressure during the winter time, just coming in out of the west. So we'll see. Definitely something that could be recurring for my LRC fans out there. But anyways, we'll talk more about that here very soon. It is the 19th. If we don't do another tropical update, I will make sure to get back on here and talk some severe weather and fill in the gaps so we can all chat again, talk, and have some fun talking weather. And then beginning of April is going to be a busy month for this channel. So definitely click subscribe. Definitely share the channel. hit the like button because we got a lot of work to do in the month of April, and then obviously we are in the final countdown, and we will start our recurring tropical updates on May 15th. I will start doing at least 3 times a week our actual real-time tropical updates for the East Pac, and then we'll also talk the Atlantic just like we did last year. So it's game time. We're getting really close to game time now, folks. Once April 1st hits, and this is not an April Fool's joke, we are going to be busting behind on this channel and on my other social media platforms, because that's it. That's game on. We get one more round of climate data beginning the first half of April. We've got hurricane conference coverage, and then after that we'll talk about whatever, and then May is the final countdown. May is the final countdown. I'm not really too concerned about May's climate data. I mean, I am and I'm not, because either way, after the first 15 days of May, we're going to start our tropical updates, and then this channel is going to be back up and flowing and working and grinding at full capacity. So be on the lookout for all that, and we will see you again soon. Have a spectacular rest of your Wednesday night. Once again, drop me a comment in the comments section down below if you'd like to connect, if you have any questions, additional comments, or concerns, or if you have any suggestions on things that you'd like to talk about in the next live stream, and we will see you again soon. But until then, it was great talking with everybody. Until next time, this is Weather Center Nazario, signing out.